On a foggy Oregon night, 8 kids vanished from a packed high school stadium, leaving only a bloody program and whispers of a secret circle. 30 years later, a hidden chamber beneath the bleachers reveals a chilling truth: rituals, crowns, and a darkness that never left. Will Detective Lauren Holt unravel the mystery, or become its next victim? This story's fiction, crafted for education and thrills, inspired by real-life tales. Want to know what happens next? Like, subscribe, comment, and share to join the hunt for answers. Don't miss the twisted end of this haunting tale. The stadium lights blazed over Hollow Creek High's football field, painting the night in sharp whites and shadows. It was Friday, October 14th, 1994, the homecoming game, the kind of night where the whole town crammed into the bleachers, screaming for their team. The air smelled of popcorn, sweat, and Oregon's damp pine. Kids waved red and white pom-poms, their faces painted with sloppy streaks of school spirit. The scoreboard ticked down, the crowd roared, and thin darkness. The lights flickered, just a heartbeat, before plunging the field into black. 72 seconds of silence gripped the stands. No one moved. A faint whisper crackled through the announcer speaker, a child's voice, soft and chilling. "The circle calls us." When the floodlights snapped back on, the crowd exhaled, nervous laughter rippling through. The band stumbled into their tune, off-key but trying. Coaches barked at players to refocus. But in row D, seats 10 through 17, something was wrong. 8 kids gone. No screams, no footsteps, just empty spots where they'd been cheering moments ago. A spilled popcorn bag crunched underfoot. A single sneaker, laces untied, sat abandoned. Worst of all was the game program. Folded tight, names of 8 kids circled in red ink. Lila Hensley, Noah Bennett, Ava Thornton, Ethan Thornton, and 4 others. A smear of blood streaked the margin, wet and glistening. "Everybody stay calm," Coach Reynolds shouted, his voice cracking. "Anyone see those kids? They were right here," a woman shrieked, clutching her purse. No one left the row. Cops swarmed the field by midnight, their flashlights cutting through the fog rolling in from the forest. Search dogs sniffed the bleachers but found nothing. Security tapes showed the lights flickering, the crowd frozen, but no kids running or being dragged away. The Hollow Creek PD called it the Bleacher 8, a case that would haunt Oregon for decades. No leads, no bodies, just questions, and a town too scared to sleep. 30 years later, October 12, 2024, the East Bleachers were a rusted skeleton, slated for demolition. Evan Carter, a wiry contractor, knelt in the mud, tugging at a loose metal panel. The air was heavy with rain and pine. "Yo, Evan, find that junction box yet?" His crew chief hollered from the scaffold above. "Almost," Evan called back, wiping dirt from his jaw. His screwdriver caught the panel's edge, prying it open with a screech. A cold gust hit his face, not just cold, but wrong, like air trapped for years. He clicked his flashlight on. Beyond the panel, a concrete hole gaped, 4 feet high, 3 wide. A staircase descended into pitch black, unmarked, uncharted. Evan's heart thudded. "Guys, you need to see this," he yelled, his beam catching dust swirling like ash. Something down there waited. The fog clung to Hollow Creek High's East Bleachers like a shroud, the Oregon damp seeping into everything. It was October 12, 2024, and the air buzzed with the hum of repair crews. Detective Lauren Holt crouched beside the rusted panel Evan Carter had pried open, her flashlight slicing through the dark. The staircase yawned below, concrete steps cracked and stained, descending into a void that didn't belong on any blueprint. Her pulse hammered as she led a small team officer, Sarah Delgado, and 2 forensic techs down into the cold, stale air. The walls were rough, smelling of mold and something sharper, like rust or blood. "What the hell is this place?" Lauren muttered, her voice echoing off the concrete. Sarah's eyes narrowed, her flashlight catching strange textures on the walls. "Lauren, look, burlap, and drawings." The beam revealed childlike sketches, stick figures holding footballs, a jagged sun with a twisted smile, all painted in a sickly brown that glistened wetly. Words were scrawled on a cracked chalkboard: "Obey. Trust. belong. Ascend. Lauren's stomach churned. This wasn't a maintenance crawlspace, it was a tomb, built with purpose. One of the techs, Marcus, brushed past, his gloved hand lifting a wooden box from the floor. Inside were 8 red and white windbreakers, each embroidered with a name. Lila Hensley, Noah Bennett, Ava Thornton, Ethan Thornton, and 4 others. Beneath them, a faded Polaroid showed 8 kids, shoulder to shoulder, staring blankly at the camera, the bleachers behind them. "These are theirs," Lauren whispered, her voice tight. "The bleacher 8. Sarah's jaw clenched. "No dust on the jackets. Someone's been here recently." Marcus swabbed the wall paintings, his face grim. "This isn't paint. Preliminary test says animal blood goat, maybe. We'll need the lab to confirm." Lauren's flashlight swept the room, landing on a steel door, rusted but solid, no handle, just a narrow slot like it was meant for a book. She stepped closer, the air growing colder, heavier. "This wasn't built for storage," she said. "Someone wanted this hidden." Sarah knelt, inspecting the door's base. No prints, no scratches. It's like it was sealed and forgotten. Then it came a faint shuffle, deep in the tunnel beyond the door. Not footsteps, but deliberate, like something dragging. Lauren's hand flew to her gun, her pulse roaring in her ears. "There's someone down here," she hissed, her flashlight trembling in the dark. The noise stopped, replaced by a silence so thick it pressed against her chest. She backed away, eyes locked on the door. "We need a bigger team," she said, voice low. "In bolt cutters. Whatever's behind that, it's not supposed to be found." The team froze, staring into the black, as a faint hum like a child's chant seemed to rise from the walls. The Hollow Creek police station hummed with tension on October 13th, 2024, as news of the underground chamber spread like wildfire. Outside, television vans crowded Main Street, reporters shouting questions through the Oregon mist. Inside, Detective Lauren Holt hunched over a cluttered desk, flipping through yellowed files from the 1994 Bleacher 8 case. Her coffee was cold, her eyes burning from sleepless hours. The names of the missing kids, Lila Hensley, Noah Bennett, Ava Thornton, Ethan Thornton, and 4 others stared back at her, each face frozen in old-school photos. A lead emerged. A substitute teacher, Elias Crowe, had taught their classes weeks before they vanished. No payroll record, just a temp ID, CR07, tied to a defunct bank account. Lauren's phone buzzed. Clara Hensley, Lila's mother, stood in the lobby, clutching a worn notebook. Lauren met her in a quiet interview room, the air heavy with grief. Clara's hand shook as she slid the notebook across the table. "Lila talked about Mr. Crowe," she said, voice cracking. "Said he told stories about a circle in the woods, where kids could ascend. I thought it was just a game." "Why didn't you tell the cops back then?" Lauren asked, her tone gentle but firm. Clara's eyes welled. "I thought it was kid stuff. Until she was gone." The notebook's pages were filled with Lila's neat 3rd-grade scrawl. "I belong to the circle. Pain teaches." A chilling drawing showed a man in a deer antler mask looming behind 8 kids. Lauren's pulse quickened. She sent the book to forensics, where tests confirmed the brown paint matched the goat blood from the chamber's walls, laced with a rare sedative used in 1980s cults. Back at her desk, Lauren dug deeper, cross-referencing Crowe with a disbanded Vermont cult, the Ascendants, known for grooming kids under the guise of spiritual growth. A file mentioned a 1989 raid, but Crowe slipped through. Then her phone rang again. Walter Klein, a retired school janitor, his voice trembling. "I saw him, detective," he said. "Mr. Crowe, in the woods behind the field, wearing that antler mask, leading kids in some ritual. I told the principal, but they shut me down." Lauren gripped the phone. "Tell me everything, Walter," she said, her eyes locked on Lila's drawing, the antlered figure's empty gaze boring into her. The station's lights flickered, just once, casting long shadows. A faint hum, like a child's chant, seemed to drift from the vents. Lauren stood, heart pounding, as a forensic report landed on her desk. A strange fiber on the jackets, not from 1994, but recent, synthetic, untraceable. Someone was still tending the circle. And then, A sharp knock at the door. Sarah, holding a new Polaroid, fresh, with a single word in red ink. Tonight. The sterile glow of Hollow Creek Regional Hospital's secure wing buzzed faintly on October 16, 2024. Detective Lauren Holt stood outside room 3C, her breath catching as she watched Noah Bennett, one of the Bleacher 8, now a gaunt 40-year-old, curled under a thin blanket. Found in a second hidden chamber beneath the East Bleachers, Noah's hollow eyes and whispered words painted a nightmare. His voice trembled as he spoke to Lauren through the observation window, recounting fragments of a ritual called Session 13. Ava, she didn't cry, he rasped. They said she was special, the only one who could wear the crown. Who's they? Noah. Lauren pressed, her voice steady despite the chill crawling up her spine. Who did this? Noah's gaze darted to the corner. The watcher. He had no eyes. Lauren's stomach twisted. Security footage from 3 a.m. showed a figure in nurse's scrubs, face hidden by a surgical mask, standing outside Noah's room, clutching a grotesque crown of wood and bone, its hooks glinting. The ID badge's barcode was blacked out with marker. Lauren gripped a cassette tape, delivered anonymously to the station, its label scratched with one phrase, "The circle never breaks." When played, children's voices sang softly. We belong, we ascend, over a low, unnatural hum. Forensics confirmed the crown, found in the second chamber, was crafted from human bone, children's teeth embedded in its frame, and a strange metal alloy, untraceable, possibly centuries old. A tattered book, the Ascendant's Codex, surfaced among the chamber's relics, describing the Watcher as a timeless entity demanding child sacrifices for continuity. Lauren's hand shook as she read, her mind racing to connect the cult to Elias Crowe. Noah's voice broke her thoughts. Ava wore the crown longest, he whispered. It hurt her, but she smiled, said it was for us. Lauren leaned closer. Where is she now, Noah? He flinched, eyes wide. She's still here, watching. That evening, a new Polaroid arrived at the station, slipped under the door. 8 kids stood in a circle, their red and white jackets pristine, faces blank. A 9th figure loomed behind, crowned, antlered, female, scrawled in red ink. Session 14 begins tonight. Lauren's blood ran cold. She called Sarah Delgado. Ava's alive, she said, voice tight, and she's moving. Sarah's radio crackled. Lauren, we've got a hit. Fresh footprints near the bleachers, size 6, female. They lead into the woods. Lauren grabbed her jacket, heart pounding. The hospital's lights flickered, and Noah's monitor beeped wildly. He sat up, staring at the mirror across his bed. She's coming, he whispered, as a faint scratch echoed from behind the glass, like nails on bone. Lauren spun toward the sound, her flashlight catching a shadow that vanished too fast, leaving only silence and the crown's faint, bloody glint in her mind. The fog smothered Hollow Creek High's football field on the evening of October 19, 2024, wrapping the Oregon pines in a ghostly haze. The town poured into the bleachers, drawn by an unseen pull, parents, old classmates, even strangers who couldn't explain why they came. Detective Lauren Holt stood on the 50-yard line, her boots sinking into the damp turf, watching the crowd's eerie silence. The air crackled with something alive, something wrong. She led a team back to the bleachers, descending into a third tunnel, freshly dug, its walls raw and jagged. At its end, a cavernous chamber opened, centered by a stone altar draped in red cloth. 7 child-sized mannequins stood in a circle, dressed in red and white jackets, each pinned with a note, "He waits." The crown, bone, and hook gleamed on the altar. "Ava," Lauren shouted, her voice echoing, "I know you're here. Stop this." A cold laugh answered from the dark. "Detective Holt, you don't get it." Ava Thornton's voice slithered, sharp as a blade. "The circle never ends. I am the crown." Lauren's flashlight caught a glint movement in the shadows. The stadium's speakers roared to life, Ava's voice booming. "Hollow Creek forgot us, but tonight, you'll all remember." From the tunnel, 8 figures emerged, their red and white jackets pristine, faces blank, moving with unnatural calm. The crowd above began to chant, low and rhythmic, "We belong, we ascend," as if possessed. Lauren's pulse thundered. She gripped her gun, stepping toward the altar. Sarah Delgado whispered, "Lauren, they're not real. They can't be." "They're real enough," Lauren snapped, her eyes locked on the figures. A forensic report flashed in her mind. Ava's diary, found in the second chamber, revealed her as the chosen one, brainwashed to lead the circle. Another tape, recovered hours ago, played Ava's voice. "I took their pain. I became their light." The lights flickered, plunging the field into darkness. When they blazed back, Ava stood on the altar, crown pressed to her head, blood trickling down her brow. "You want to save me?" she sneered. "I saved them." The mannequins turned, their painted eyes locking on Lauren. A low hum rose, vibrating the walls, as the crowd's chant grew louder. Sarah grabbed Lauren's arm. "We need to get out now." But Lauren stepped closer, voice steady. "Ava, you don't have to finish this." Ava's smile was ice. "It's already done." A deafening boom shook the stadium, the ground trembling beneath. The lights flashed wildly, and screams erupted from the bleachers. Lauren lunged for Ava, but the chamber plunged into black. When the light returned, Ava was gone, the crown alone on the altar, its hooks dripping fresh blood. From above, the crowd's chant became a wail, and something moved in the tunnel of shadow, antlered, watching. November 1st, 2024, and Hollow Creek, Oregon, felt hollower than ever. The East Bleachers were gone, replaced by a memorial garden, its fresh sod glowing under a gray dawn. Detective Lauren Holt stood among the roses, her boots damp from morning dew, staring at a granite plaque listing the Bleacher 8. The town tried to move on, but the night of October 19th lingered like a bruise. Ava Thornton had vanished, the crown with her, and no one knew where. Noah Bennett, still in the hospital, sketched circles and antlers in his sleep, whispering, "She's not done." Lauren's phone buzzed with a text, anonymous, chilling. "Session 15 starts elsewhere." Another stadium, another town. "Lauren, you think we're done with this?" Officer Sarah Delgado asked, her voice low as they walked back to the cruiser. "No, Sarah," Lauren said, her gaze distant. "It's not over. It just moved." A new Polaroid had arrived that morning, slipped into Lauren's mailbox. It showed a strange football field, unfamiliar, with a red scribble. "See you soon, detective." The wind carried a faint hum, like children's voices, from the pines beyond the garden. Lauren's radio crackled with reports of odd signal static-laced chants popping up on radios in nearby towns. The FBI had taken over, linking the crown's bone metal alloy to a 17th-century Oregon cult, one tied to blood rituals and a forgotten curse. Inside the station, Lauren spread out the case files. A 1994 log caught her eye, an anonymous tip about a child hidden in the East Field house, dismissed as a prank. Now, it screamed truth. She drove to the condemned field house, its bricks crumbling, and found a red ribbon tied to the gate, a note pinned beneath, "Come see what you buried." Lauren's heart raced. She called Sarah. "Get a team to the field house, now." They descended into a sealed shaft, lanterns casting jagged shadows. At the bottom, a new chamber, its walls etched with three-eyed triangles and bleeding crowns. Noah's latest drawing, facts from the hospital, matched the carvings perfectly. Session 14 starts at nightfall. Lauren's phone buzzed again, a grainy video, sent anonymously, showing Ava in a dark room, crown on, whispering, "The circle closes soon." Dr. Karen Lyle, a criminal psychologist, later told Lauren, "Cults like the Ascendants prey on vulnerable kids, twisting their minds into weapons." Hollow Creek ignored the signs, strange teachers, odd behaviors. Communities must listen to kids, check backgrounds, stay vigilant. Lauren drove out of town, the road swallowed by fog. A figure flickered in her rearview mirror, antlered, eyeless, gone in a blink. The garden's roses swayed, and a child's laugh echoed faintly. Ava was out there, rebuilding the circle. Lauren gripped the wheel, knowing the truth. Silence buries secrets, but they always claw their way out. Somewhere, another field waited, and the crown's hooks gleamed.